You're not lazy, you're overloaded. You sit down to do something important. Maybe it's work, maybe it's studying, maybe it's something you've been putting off all day, and within minutes, your focus is gone. You check your phone, you open another tab, you tell yourself you'll start in a second, and somehow an hour disappears. And the worst part is, you know what you should be doing. That quiet frustration builds up over time because it starts to feel personal, like maybe you're just not disciplined enough. Maybe you're lazy. Maybe something is wrong with you, but what if that's not true? What if this isn't a discipline problem at all? What if the real problem is something much quieter, something built into your environment, your habits, your daily rhythm? Because there's a reason some people seem calm, focused, modern, and consistent without forcing themselves every second. And if you look closely at certain Japanese habits and routines, you start to notice something different. They're not trying to push productivity. They're protecting something more important, your attention, the lie we believe about productivity. Most of us were taught a very specific idea of productivity. That being productive means doing more, faster, longer, with fewer breaks, more output, more effort, more intensity. So when you struggle to focus, your first instinct is to push harder. You try new apps, new systems, new routines. You tell yourself, tomorrow I'll be more disciplined. But something strange happens. The more you try to optimize everything, the harder it becomes to actually do anything. Well, because underneath all of that, your attention is being stretched thin. Modern life is noisy, notifications, endless scrolling, multiple tabs open at once, constant switching between tasks. Your brain was never designed for this level of fragmentation. And when your attention is constantly pulled in different directions, focus doesn't disappear because you're lazy. It disappears because it's being used up, quietly, all day long. So the problem isn't that you're not trying hard enough. It's that you're trying to focus in an environment that's working against you. A different way of thinking about focus. If you shift your perspective for a moment, you'll notice something important. Focus isn't something you force. It's something that naturally appears when there's less resistance. And this is where Japanese habits feel different. They don't treat productivity like a battle. They treat it like something that should feel steady, intentional, almost quiet. Instead of asking, how can I do more? The question becomes, what is distracting me? And how can I remove it? Instead of building systems that demand more from you, they build environments that ask less from your mind. Less noise, less friction, less chaos. And when that happens, focus doesn't feel like effort anymore. It feels natural. Habit 1, start with less, not more. One of the biggest reasons you struggle to begin a task is because it feels too big, too heavy, too undefined. So your brain resists it, not because you don't care, but because it doesn't know where to start. A common Japanese approach is to make the starting point incredibly small, almost effortless. Instead of planning your entire day, you begin with one clear, simple action. Not 10 tasks, not a full system, just one thing. This reduces what psychologists call cognitive load, the amount of mental effort required to begin. And when that load is small enough, starting no longer feels like a decision. It just happens. And once you begin, momentum quietly takes over. Habit 2, protect your attention like it matters. Most people treat attention casually. They let anything interrupt them. A notification, a message, a random thought. But attention is not unlimited. Every time you switch tasks, your brain has to reset. And even if it feels quick, there's a cost. Studies show it can take several minutes to fully regain focus after a distraction. Now imagine that happening dozens of times a day. No wonder everything feels scattered. In many Japanese work cultures, there's a stronger respect for uninterrupted time. Fewer interruptions, clearer boundaries. Not because they're stricter, but because they understand something simple. What you protect improves. So instead of asking, how do I focus more? Try asking, what keeps breaking my focus, and can I remove it? Habit 3, do one thing. Multitasking feels productive, but in reality, it's just rapid switching. You're not doing multiple things at once. You're doing one thing poorly, then jumping to another. And each switch drains your attention a little more. There's a Japanese concept often reflected in daily life and work. Being fully present in one activity. Not half working while checking your phone. Not studying while watching something in the background. Just one thing, completely. At first, this feels slower, but over time, it becomes deeper, more efficient, more satisfying. Because when your mind isn't split, your work becomes clearer and your focus lasts longer. Habit 4. Build rhythm, not intensity. Most people rely on motivation. They wait until they feel ready, then try to do everything at once. But motivation is inconsistent. Some days it's there, some days it disappears. Japanese routines often focus on something more stable. Rhythm. Small, repeatable actions, done consistently. Not extreme bursts of effort. Not all or nothing thinking, just a steady pace. Because rhythm doesn't depend on how you feel. It creates a structure your mind can rely on. And over time, that structure becomes automatic. You don't need to force yourself. You simply follow the rhythm you've already built. Habit 5. Reset, don't push through. There's a moment most people ignore. It's subtle. You're working, and your focus starts to slip. Your mind gets foggy. You reread the same sentence twice. You feel that quiet resistance building. And what do we usually do? We push through it. We force ourselves to keep going, thinking that stopping means we're being lazy. But in reality, that's often the exact moment your brain needs a reset. In many Japanese routines, there's an understanding that rest isn't a reward, it's part of the process. Short, intentional breaks, a step away, a pause to breathe, not distraction, not escape, just a reset. Because attention isn't something you can stretch endlessly. It moves in cycles. And when you respect those cycles, you come back sharper, clearer, more present. Sometimes, the most productive thing you can do is stop for a moment. Habit 6, create a calm environment. Look around the space where you usually try to focus. Open tabs, notifications, clutter, noise, even if you don't notice it consciously. Your brain does. Every object, every sound, every visual detail competes for your attention in small ways. And over time, that adds up. Japanese environments often lean towards simplicity, not as a trend, but as a way to reduce unnecessary input. Less visual noise, fewer distractions, more space to think. Because when your environment is calm, your mind doesn't have to work as hard to filter things out. You don't need a perfect workspace, just a slightly quieter one, a cleaner surface, fewer open tabs, your phone out of reach. Small changes, but they create a noticeable shift. Focus doesn't just come from within. It's shaped by what's around you. Habit 7, redefine what productive means. At some point, this stops being about habits and becomes about how you define productivity itself. Because if your definition is doing as much as possible, as fast as possible, you'll always feel behind, even on your best days. But what if productivity looked different? What if it meant doing fewer things, but doing them with clarity, finishing what matters instead of starting everything, ending the day with a sense of completion instead of exhaustion? This is the quiet shift behind everything we've talked about. Japanese habits don't just help you do more, they help you do what matters and without losing yourself in the process. And that's a very different kind of productivity, one that feels sustainable, calm, even satisfying. A calmer way forward. If you've been feeling stuck lately, distracted, inconsistent, unable to focus the way you used to, it doesn't mean you've lost your discipline. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It just means your attention has been pulled in too many directions for too long. And the solution isn't to push harder. It's to make things quieter. A little less noise, a little less pressure, a little more intention. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You don't need a perfect system. You just need to start noticing what's draining your attention and what helps you keep it. And slowly, as you make those small shifts, focus starts to feel different. Not forced, not fragile, just available again. And maybe that's what you've been looking for all along.